This week, what we're going to do is complete the engine bay and get the chassis ready to go to start mock-up assembly. So welcome back to Basin Motorsports. I am Kane Manley, purveyor of Basin Motorsports, owner, CEO, and head knucklehead in this garage. So now that you've watched the torque boxes going in, you know that I'm pretty much done with everything I wanted to do with cleaning, torque boxes, subframe connectors, everything else, other than I want to start assembly on this. The last thing I want to do really is get the engine bay cleaned up, repainted, simply just in a kind of a metallic gray that it was OEM, so it looks roughly like it should be, and then get the fender, I guess the fender wells, the inner liners down here done. So I have a lot of rust in mine. Not a lot of rust, I should say. I have a lot of surface rust. Nothing terrible that's rusted through that needs to be taken out and welded. But I want to get that cleaned up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically use a grinder and a 40 grit disc on it and just lightly go over the surfaces. The whole key to it is just to get it down to bare metal or as close as I can get it to get rid of that. I'll then put in some rust encapsulator to cover and kind of neutralize any of the rust that's left, the surface rust. Beyond that, I can hit the bare metal with etch primer, get everything cleaned. I'm just going to hit the fender wells with just a black. I don't really care because they're going to be covered up anyway. I just am more worried about corrosion. And on the engine bays, obviously, like I said, I want to go back to kind of like the medium dark gray that it should be OEM for the color of the car, because eventually I'm thinking I may paint it back to OEM color. So now when you're doing this, obviously make sure, because you're going to be grinding in that and it's going to be kicking up a lot of dust, I would recommend just a particulate mask, you know, the simple ones you can buy for a few bucks for $5 in a pack. That'll keep the dust and the dirt from going up in your nose, and obviously if you're painting, it's not going to protect you from the fumes, but it'll keep the dust and the stuff from kind of getting everywhere. Make sure you're wearing a nice shirt that you can get dirty, because you're going to get dirty. I always like to wear just kind of an old crusty hat to keep my bald head from sweating and collecting dust, which it always does anyway. And then make sure you're wearing eyeglasses and hand protection as you're doing this stuff. So I'm going to kick the compressor on, open up the doors, and get this party started. And you enjoy watching me work. Alright guys, so I think I've got everything back to where I want to be for the start of the paint. Now, if you look at this is the passenger side fender well, you can see there's a lot of exposed metal in that, and that's because I had a lot of surface rust behind that battery and the airbox. Now, if you remember on the interior of the stuff, I used a brand from Summit. This I'm going to switch over to Rust-Oleum. Ran out of the other stuff. This stuff is sold locally, so I just went and bought this. Now this will be sprayed on first for everything that is still rusty a little bit, and you have some creases and crevices and stuff. And then everything else is going to be either covered in a rust converter and then primer, or bare primer then paint. So we're going to be in good shape once this is all done, so it's time to get done. So you can see now I've got everything painted. So the areas in black are the rust encapsulator, which turns that into a nice textured surface for paint. And then the kind of the greenish, like military drab green, is going to be the etch primer. Everything else that's gray I've now scuffed so that I can just paint it. And I'm going to hit everything with primer, just a high build primer, and then I'm going to hit it with just a simple black. And that's just to make it uniform, and then I'll have a coating on it, actually multiple coatings on it, so I don't have to worry about rust in the future. So I'm going to get this done. I'm going to do the other side on the inner fender, and then we're going to move on to the engine bay. Okay, so here's the finished product on the wheel wells. Obviously, it doesn't look like much because it's just black, but that is rust encapsulator, etch primer where needed, then just a filler primer and a simple black paint. Not going to be sexy, but it's all going to be covered up, or mostly covered up anyway, so no need to get fancy. Getting fancy is for the engine bay. Alright, so with the wheel wells done, it's time to start working on the engine bay. Painting is going to be similar to what I've already done. It's going to be either rust encapsulator inhibitor, etching primer for the bare metal, and then really just cleaning it, hitting it with primer, and I'm probably going to do this in pieces, so not the whole thing at once. I'll probably just do maybe a foot by foot square, get that ready, do the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Once everything is primed, then I'm going to worry about hitting everything with the same paint so that it all matches. Alright gang, so I'm going to call it a day. So you can see behind me a little bit more black and green, obviously. So most of it that was bare metal prior was either color in rust encapsulator or the etching primer. So you can see behind, you can see down in there, there's a lot more green. If I go down here, you can kind of see I'm starting out doing the top of that here on the radiator support. So this is nice and green also. So as you can see on the driver's side, I still have to work on it. It still has bare metal all along inside the fenders, but at least underneath is covered. And then I need to work on the firewall itself. So I've taken off all the little bolts, accessories, clips, everything I can to get to it, and I'm running my fingers and towels across that, and if I feel any sharp metal, I'm stopping, grinding off like spot welds that had a little bit of weld slag or something that's a little pokey. Just get rid of it now. It'll only make it easier. And I've started cleaning down the transmission tunnel as I need to finish that before I start putting everything in. Piece by piece we're going to get this, so I'm going to take a break for today, and I will see you shortly. Alright guys, so welcome back. Now obviously you can see the engine bay has changed. So I've laid down 2 coats of filler primer. Now the filler primer is a little bit different, where the rust encapsulator and the green etch primer basically was for corrosion protection. Stops the rust, stops corrosion on any bare metal. The filler primer itself is exactly as it sounds like. It is meant to fill and then be a primer before paint. So I've laid down 2 coats of that, and what you'll find is after you do that is that you're going to have kind of a rough texture. And that's a lot of times you have overspray or dirt that gets in the primer, especially when you're not in a paint booth, if you're just in a garage like I am. So you can see this gray is all filler primer. And once I've done that and let it cure for 24 hours or so, or a few hours if you've got nice warm temperatures, you can then go over it with a green Scotch Brite. Now, the Scotch Brite is going to take off all of the, I guess, the rough texture to it, but it's not going to be abrasive enough that it's going to start going into the primer. If you need to sand it smooth enough, like you're doing a true tucking and shaved engine bay, you may want to do some wet sanding, like 1000 grit. But this is abrasive enough that it's going to take off the kind of the rough texture, but it's not going to go deep into the primer. So after that, what I need to do now is get my shop vac out, clean all of this out, re-clean it to make sure it's ready for paint, and then lay down the first section of paint. So be right back, stay tuned, and I'll show you what color this is going to end up being. Alright guys, so before I show you the final color of what I've chosen to go with for the engine bay, I just want to say thanks. So if you've watched it to this far, it's probably pretty long. I haven't edited it yet, but I know I'm a big talker, and I like to talk about all the stuff I'm doing to try and give you the most information I can in case you want to follow my footsteps. So if you've watched this far or you've subscribed to keep up on the build, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I can't give you time back, but hopefully you felt it's worthy. Now, if you've just stumbled upon this and you're interested in the wide body piece, which is coming up very soon, the 5-lug swap, any of the other cleaning stuff, make sure you hit subscribe. Check out the small piece in the bottom, what is it, left-hand corner I think it is, or right-hand corner of the screen, a little icon. That'll subscribe, or just hit subscribe, the red button there. Keep up in all this. So if you remember, back in the degreaser video, I had kind of joked around with what color I was going to go with, but I eventually said I wanted to go with something similar to OEM color. What does that mean? Well, hell, nothing is even close, really. Honestly, off the shelf, that's the dark gray. So the color I came up with is called aluminum. Now, it's kind of a medium gray itself. It's got a little sparkle to it, so I think it's going to be pretty good with a black body and some of the other stuff I'm going to do. So that is what I'm going to do. It's a Rust-Oleum number 7515 aluminum. So let's lay down some of this and I'll show you how it's going to look when it's done. Alright, so round one of paint is done. Now in the video you're probably not even going to see it because honestly it's kind of a translucent. It mimics what it goes on. So if it goes on black, it'll be kind of a grayish black. Well, since it went on like a light gray, it kind of just darkens it and gives it a texture, kind of like a silverish texture, a metal texture, as you would expect with aluminum, right? So this is round one. I got 2 and maybe a third to go depending on how I like the coverage, but this is the finished product you will see in the future when I pop my hood at any car show. So that's it for this time. Again, thanks for watching. Hopefully this isn't too long and boring and everything else, but if you ever want to do this to your own car, here's how you do it. Strip it, prime it, paint it, and impress yourself along the way. We'll see you next time.